Well, hopefully you've had a really nice week this week, and we'll finish it off with something you should already know how to do. And what I'm going to ask you is this. If you're given a formula but not given the right information, is it possible to rewrite the formula? Are the terms really independent of each other? Case in point, Mrs. Rose's room is so hot. It's 30 degrees Celsius. Mrs. Douglas says, just how hot is that on the Fahrenheit scale? So, we gave you Celsius. You have to find Fahrenheit. Is there a way to change this formula? So only have to memorize one formula. Well, let's think about this for a minute. How do you get rid of a coefficient of 5/9? You multiply both sides by 9/5. When you do that, you now have 9/5 times C is equal to F minus 32. Add 32 to both sides, and you have, voila, a brand new formula. 9/5 C plus 32 is equal to F. And so the terms truly are independent of each other. So one of your standards for this year is to interpret complicated expressions by viewing one or more of their parts as a single entity. For example, interpret the principal times 1 plus the rate to the power of n as the product of p and a factor not dependent on p. So let's take a look at this. We have 4a plus b equals 3a, and we want to solve it just for a. Now, Mrs. Rose, this is a fairly simple one. I don't know why you're starting with something this easy. Mrs. Rose, all I have to do is subtract 3a from both sides, and I get a plus b is equal to 0. Subtract b from both sides, and I get a is equal to the opposite of b. Now, I know you might want to say negative b, but let's think of that as the opposite. So what about this one? Solve c plus d equals 2c for c. Well, first things first, we're dividing by 3, so let's multiply both sides by 3, and you would get c plus d is equal to 6c. Subtract c from both sides, and you would get d is equal to 5c, but we want c to be isolated. So divide by 5, and your final answer would be c is equal to d divided by 5, or 1/5 d. See how simple this is? So let's take a couple of other examples, okay? Now, I want you to know that I did not write these examples, so you should know by now that Mrs. Rose is not crazy about the idea of moving B and moving A. We're not really moving them. We're using additive inverses. So if you have AX plus B equals C, looks an awful lot like y equals mx plus b, doesn't it? And we want to solve it for x. We would use the additive inverse of b, and you would have a times x is equal to c minus b, and then divide everything by a, and so you would get that x is equal to c minus b divided by a. What about this one? Area equals 1/2 base times height. This is a very common question on multiple CRCTs, SAT, PSAT, and you want to solve for height. Well, you divide both sides by b, and you would get a divided by b equals 1/2 times h. Multiply both sides by 2, and your final answer for height is equal to 2 times a divided by b. Hopefully you can work this out by yourself in your math journal. Now, an application problem. Let's put a big old star here, and not just because it's about the great state of Tennessee, you know, the orange in my room, but distance equals rate times time is huge. It is a formula you need to know for 8th grade math. It is a formula you need to know for accelerated science this year, and you also need to know it for physics in high school. If you want to solve just for time, you divide both sides by rate, and time is equal to distance divided by rate. So why don't you try this one? Go ahead and write it down, and then we'll stop the video and come back. first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by 2. And we would have 2s is equal to n times the sum of a plus t. I want to isolate n, so I need to divide both sides by a plus t. Divide both sides by a plus t. And hopefully the answer that you received was n is equal to 2s divided by the quantity of a plus t. Let's try this one. Solve for a. Now, this one appears to be tough, but let's remember this. Oh, Mrs. Rose, they both have a factor in common of a. Let's undo distributive properties, shall we? Yes, we shall, Mrs. Rose. And now to isolate a, all we have to do is divide both sides by the quantity of 3 plus 5c. And Miss Rose, let's not get sloppy. Let's not forget the parentheses. So a is equal to q divided by the quantity of 3 plus 5c. Now, you try. Are you finished with me yet? Well, let's see. A is equal to h times 1/2 a minus 1/2 b, because we've removed the factor of h. Solving for h, divide both sides by 1/2 a minus 1/2 b. Divide both sides by 1/2 a minus 1/2 b. Notice these a's and b's the a's are different. One is capital A and one is small a. And so let's make sure that we have a divided by 1/2 lowercase a minus 1/2 b will equal h. Now, I'm going to leave you with this one. The area A of a sector of a circle is given by area equals pi r squared times s divided by 360, where r is the radius and s is the angle measure in degrees of the sector. I want you to solve for s and bring it to class tomorrow. Well, that's it. If you're having trouble with these, by the way, you do have one of these in your versatile packet, and hopefully you'll be able to do it tomorrow. Why don't you visit my friend, the virtual nerd, at this website and see if he can help you. Toodles for now. See you tomorrow in class.